Are these soon to be things of the past? Showrooms like these are expensive to build, expensive to run, and expensive to manage. Dealers have got vast sums tied up in expensive stock, and all the while margins are being stripped to the bone. It would seem that the traditional way of selling cars has stalled.
The average return for a dealer in Europe over the last 6 years has been about 0.6%, less than 1%. There are some pressures coming up in terms of reducing after-sales business, the likelihood of prices coming under pressure with the rise of the internet, and just more players with more products in the market that's going to squeeze volumes, that says that the current situation can't be sustained, that it will go from being sort of plus 0.6 to something like minus 0.6 over the course of the rest of this decade. And that's the average. So clearly at that point there's a lot of dealers who are underwater.
For every ASOS and Amazon, there are tens of retail brands no longer with us. The buying behaviours of consumers has changed significantly in recent years. Dealers have to change gear and move with the times.
As customers start to use the internet more, and there's price comparison sites, there's third parties who become involved trying to find the best deal, then that puts pressure down on prices, and that's both on sales and on after sales. So automotive's not going to be any different. But also the customers themselves are doing much more research than they previously did, and they end up with a very high knowledge level about the cars that are around, their performance, the pricing, the features, whether it's going to work for them, the finance deals, and they, as a consequence of that, visiting fewer dealers. So they're visiting, based on our research, only 2 dealers. They're making 3 visits altogether. So they go to one dealer, check his offer, go to another dealer, check his offer, and then go back to one of them to do the deal. And 40% of them are only visiting dealers of the same brand. So the decision was made before they did any physical shopping at all. And that then really questions why you need to have the sort of dealerships that we're used to, dealerships that have an investment of 2, 4, up to 10 million for a building where people were fundamentally going in to check a price and sign the paperwork. The model doesn't work. The investment's wrong, the staffing's wrong, and the attitude of the sales executives is also wrong, because they think they're in selling mode, and they're not. The customer's already almost sold. You've just got to carry them over the line.
Is the answer then to move towards a more retail shopping mall style environment?
In the research that we've done, then by far the most popular option is a department store type format with lots of different brands there. Manufacturers are very nervous about that sort of environment. They're concerned that despite the fact that the customer has basically made their mind up, that at the last minute they might be tempted by the brand over in that corner or in the next aisle. It's unlikely that we'll see many department store type outlets, but the idea that you put something on, that you give people sort of a real reason to go there, definitely is the case. And that has to start in that internet stage, in the point when the customer is on the internet, they're doing the research. That's where you need to capture them. That's where you need to get into two-way exchange with them and give them a good reason to go into the dealership. And then we've maybe got an online channel as well, which is also taking some customers at least through to a transaction. Then that says that you need to substantially cut back on the number of other sales points, at least as we know them today. And our financial modelings, suggest that number is probably somewhere between 30 and 40% reduction on the existing network size in order to provide an economically sustainable business model for those dealers who remain.
So, if the current model has broken down and manufacturers are reluctant to move to the department store environment, what should tomorrow's car buying experience look like?
If I go into pretty much any manufacturer and we just introduce the subject of what future networks will look like, then they will respond often with a script that I could have written. So there's a general understanding of where we need to get to. Similarly with dealers, many dealers have changed in similarly a couple of years and understand that the future is not about having large networks, big physical properties, and selling cars, on a margin, traditional car trading, if you like. Dealer businesses, if you like, will still have a role, because we don't think that manufacturers are well equipped to handle the frequency of transaction and so on that you have in a dealership today. But increasingly the dealers, the smart dealers, and there's quite a growing percentage of them that I would call smart, are starting to think about their investment footprint, starting to think about the skills that they need, starting to think about some of the back office needs that they will have to have. The smart brands, the smart manufacturers are kicking off sort of a 5-year process. They're not trying to change things overnight. Customers aren't changing overnight. But we're in sort of a 5-year transition, and those smaller dealers and some dealers who are just asleep at the wheel will have to find a new way of earning a living.
So it seems some will stay and thrive in this new multi-channel environment, and some will simply fade and die. What cannot be disputed is that in 5 years' time, the way we buy and sell cars will be very different.